Hello and welcome to the Alchemy Sisters. You are here with Mandee and Jennie. Hey, Jennie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Mandee?
Can't complain. I am in the Northeast. I'm in New Jersey, and it's our first week of like a lot of humidity. And I've been noticing I need to water my garden a little bit extra because it's been getting a lot hotter. And I'm just enjoying welcoming in summer.
Excellent. It's a beautiful day here just north of Albuquerque. The sun is out, the sky is blue, and there's beautiful flowers out, and the cactuses have mostly bloomed, but there's still a ton of flowers blooming. So it's just a beautiful, magical area here, and I'm enjoying myself. I'm really excited about our guest today. It's one of our personal friends, Shannon Connell. Do you want to introduce her, Mandee?
Absolutely. We're just really excited to hold space with our friend Shannon. She is an author, yoga teacher, Reiki master, and so much more. Welcome, Shannon. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
We are so excited to hold space with you. We are pre-recording this show because as Mercury retrograde would have it, we had a little mix-up when we were supposed to go live with Shannon. So we're really excited that she came back on and she's gifting her energy to us and our listeners. Shannon, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your magic you're currently sharing in the world?
Yeah, I would consider myself a experiential educator. For me, it's all about kind of supporting people to have their own direct experience, whether it's through yoga, energy healing, or counseling and therapy services. My main goal in my career and my life work is to merge the two schools of thought of spirituality and science. So my background has been eclectic. I learned a lot through nature as a firefighter, a raft guide, a yoga practitioner and instructor. And all these schools of thoughts really helped me develop into a more conscious, compassionate woman. So I decided to get a more Western education to kind of help support and communicate that these practices are actually science. So my research in graduate school as a health psychologist have been in mainly the nervous system, biopsychology, and a lot of neuroscience. So my goal was to get the education and the linguistics to help communicate these magical schools of thought to get more accreditation to those that think a little more logically. So that's kind of been my goal. I just believe that experiential education and the experiences we have in life is actually a process of research. And, you know, we just, as a yoga instructor, I'm just trying to help others research the field of study, which is figuring out who we really are and healing ourselves so we can integrate back into our true nature, which is love, peace, joy, and to help others realize the interconnectedness between all beings and all things that we're sharing this planet Earth with and the universe with.
That is beautiful. I love that, Shannon. I love your devotion and I love your energy. And you just had a book come out. Do you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah, thanks. I just wrote a book called The Alchemy of Yoga, a psychology akin to magic. And, you know, it's all about spiritual activation. We must act. So the practices of yoga, the techniques of yoga, or Reiki, energy healing, I think prepare our bodies, prepare our nervous system so that we can be more receptive and plugged into our higher states of consciousness and being.
I love that. I appreciate that. And I'm going to get a copy of the book. Is it in physical form as well as can people get it like on their Kindle, or is it one way or another?
Right now it's just in a PDF. I just released it during the pandemic. I thought it was a way to communicate and share the teachings of yoga with my students while the studios were shut down. So I recently just released it to my students as an offering. It is hopefully in a process of being considered with a publishing company. If you are interested in it, I can kind of share information on how to get in touch with me through my website, which is shannonconnellhealth.com. And you can just reach out to me through that contact page, and I'd be happy to share it with you in the PDF form.
Wonderful. Thank you for your life's work. And you are just outside of Boulder, Colorado right now. Is that true?
Yes. Yep. I've been in the Front Range area for about 7 years. I have spent a lot of my life in spiritual and sustainable communities, most recently at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, where I was teaching yoga for a pivotal leader in our community, Dr. Gabriel Cousins, and it's a raw foods community. So I was growing food organically, and we would have a lot of people come for spiritual healing, physiological healing. We did a lot of research there in how natural foods, meditation, yoga, reconnection to spirit can heal our physiological bodies. I observed people with cancer, diabetes, all sorts of chronic illnesses evolve and heal and come back to life. So I kind of go in and out of rural and urban environments to share my teachings and to grow as a practitioner.
Fantastic. That's what we're all about here on the Alchemy Sisters, and experimenting with like different modalities for each person and individual and what's going to work, for that person. And it's so incredible that through your life's experiences, you've been able to witness this now firsthand and seeing what different modalities can do for people. That's incredible. What are some of your favorites or some of your techniques that are rising a lot in you now, or you chose to write about in your book?
Yoga has been with me ever since I was a little girl. I think for me, when I was young, I kind of came in just having a strong desire to know God. And when I say God, it's free of any codifications or religious training. It's just a name I'm comfortable with. So you can find a name you're comfortable with, whether it's consciousness, the goddess, whatever works for the listener. But I just came in with this intense desire to reconnect, being empathic and kind of seeing and feeling so much of the energy around me. And yoga was the first technique I came across that helped me discern what energy was mine, what energy was from the world, the collective karma and energy around me. And it's just been a technique and a practice that has helped ground me and helped me to become a clearer channel so that I can be of service and do my life's work here. I truly believe that when I do what I can to uplift the lives of others and other beings around me, that it uplifts my life and helps me better connect to my spirit and the greater goodness.
Mandee, don't you think we should have a specific retreat for yoga in some of our festival and venue events that we're throwing in the future? Don't you think that would be super awesome?
You said it, and I think it's been such a beautiful bridge. And, even I was born in 1985, and even when I was younger, it was still a little taboo. And now it's become, popular and accepted. And it's such a vehicle to consciousness. And it's helped me to heal my body. I went through a lot with my body, and I've experienced lots of different ways to help heal it. And one of the things that has been one of my most potent medicines has been yoga. And whether it was just starting with a little bit of chair yoga after a surgery, or like now I really am getting into it. And every single day you learn to roll with the ebbs and flows of life and accept that your body is going to be in a different state of being and balance each day. And it helps you to understand the perspectives of the outside world so much more clearly. So I'm a big fan of it. It's worked for me, and I know a whole lot of people, and it's definitely something that I want to help share.
As a body worker for 18 years, I've led a lot of people to, if not yoga, just stretching in general. So important to do, so important to stretch the muscles, so important to stay limber. I would recommend it to everyone, even if, like Mandee said, if you can't get up and move around, you can sit in a chair and maybe do some yoga, or maybe do some light toe flexes, anything to move the energy of the body and keep it from getting stagnant is so important. It's just wildly important. I'm glad you're doing your work.
It really invites me to ask Shannon a little bit. I'm a huge fan of merging science and spirituality as well, and I believe that's a big mission of a lot of the Wayshowers and light workers at this time, but it's uncharted territory in a lot of ways. And energetically, Jennie and I always talk about seeing, traumas and dramas get stored in the muscle bellies and at a cellular level and whatnot. What have you come across in your scientific research, and how do you like to discuss that concept, Shannon?
I believe consciousness requires good communication, and all systems of our body, just like all beings and all things, are in communication with one another. I believe that all life communicates. I believe that the organs and the systems of our body communicate in order to maintain good health. And we are built up of lymph, blood, and cells. And our energetic body, our mental body, our emotional body, even our spiritual body can affect the communication in our physical body. And I believe that the practice of yoga can help heal the body and the nervous system to bring about more self-awareness, more confidence, and more personal will to continue the practice in healing ourselves. And yoga isn't necessarily something we do with our physiological body. If you're not in an able body, you can still practice yoga. Yoga is a state of being. It's not something you actually do. It's a state of consciousness. So there are practices in the yoga system that have nothing to do with our physiological body. Yoga has these limbs of practice that are associated with ethics, breath, all these different things. So don't let yourself feel limited if you are not in an able body in your opportunity to practice and embody yoga. But some of the scientific things that have been researched in the practice of yoga is how it can purify the lymphatic system. It helps release carbon dioxide, oxidative stress from the body. It can help to rebuild connective tissue. It can even rebuild collagen and protein to heal our joints, even our bones. In my personal experience with the practice of yoga, I had a severe scoliosis as a child. And now through the practice of yoga, I credit the physical practice of yoga. My spine is straight. I have no scoliosis. And I also share in the book how the practice of yoga was really the only thing that helped me overcome some mental health issues and addiction with an eating disorder when I was a young girl. So I really believe in it. I don't think it's the only path, the only way. There are many ways, many paths. And I feel where those merge is when we really aspire to healing on all levels. But it's worked for me. I think the practice works. And I've just dedicated my life to trying to create a direct experience for others. In the practice of yoga, you go direct. You don't have to go through anyone else to establish your relationship with yourself or with God or whatever spiritual connection you have with nature, you do it. And that's really liberating to me. You don't have to go through a priest or a rabbi or anyone else to create that experience for yourself.
Have you guys been doing some outdoor yoga because of the coronavirus? Did that get popular at all? Is keeping people outside and not having them inside to do yoga?
That is something I definitely aspire to do. As I mentioned earlier, all life communicates, and, I think getting into nature, we can learn so much. I believe there's consciousness and spirit in the trees, in the clouds, in the colors, the flowers, in all things everywhere. So I think that would be a really great experience. My first working experiences, I was an outdoor experiential educator. So I would take people rafting or kayaking, rock climbing, caving, and I learned so much from those elements. I do write about the 5 elements in my book and my communication and dialogue with them, what I learned from them. I even wanted to study fire. So I spent a year as a wildland firefighter to just kind of understand the behavior of the elements, because I believe we're interconnected and a part of those elements. I think a lot of us do a disservice to ourselves and our consciousness if we don't interact with nature, because we're all a part of it.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And I try to each day set my own life just with an intention of being like one big moving prayer, because I just feel so a part of it all the time. But I have a lot of similarities to you, Shannon, and came in with this knowing and this awe and seeing all this energy and not understanding that, not everyone else was understanding it the way that I was. And I think it's wonderful how in each chapter of your life, you've allowed yourself to be present, to learn deeper another element. Speaking of which, 2 things you mentioned that I thought might be nice to talk about at this time and maybe give some support to our listeners. One was the lymphatic system. There's a lot of different, stress and disease and worries rising right now. And I'm wondering just what kind of maybe education you might want to share with our listeners around their lymphatic systems and how they could maybe support it a little better at this time.
Absolutely.
Of course with yoga, but I know that you have a lot of other things too up your sleeve.
The lymphatic system is our body's sewer system. It's our ability to release toxins from our cells. And when we are in a chronic state of stress, our lymphatic system can get clogged. And when our nervous system is compensated, it affects all the other systems of our body, our immune system, our mental health, our ability to sleep. We become more susceptible to anxiety, and we're better or less capable of managing stress. So things to help support the lymphatic system: drinking lots of water, purifying your diet, even maybe fasting. For me, I live as a raw vegan. That means I eat 80% of my food consumption is not cooked. I also have spent years of my life as a fruitarian, eating only fruit. And why am I researching that and why I've done that is it's directly absorbed into the bloodstream. And it helps to detoxify the cells. So we can release any of the sludge or toxic buildup in our body. Also energetically, eating the rainbow of colors to help kind of heal our chakra system. When I feel like I need to be more grounded, I'll eat more root foods like carrots or radishes, beets, foods that are red or orange. If I need to build up my power center, I'll eat food that is the color yellow. If I want to go into more meditative, higher states of consciousness, I'll eat more fruit from the trees, like mangoes or apples, bananas. that's a big part of my personal discipline and practice to keep my body more receptive to higher states of consciousness. Finding the discipline and the motivation and the will to let go of things that aren't serving you. Maybe smoking or overeating or alcohol, those kinds of things can maybe dull our energetic system. If they're done, in excess, I think moderation is important. So if you want that chocolate cake or you want that glass of wine to celebrate, the goal, I think, is to enjoy and celebrate life. I think having a human birth is a very elevated destiny because we do have this different component of intelligence and a great opportunity to find freedom and peace and love and reconnect with our true nature while we're here. So yeah, those are some practices. Breathing practices can help calm the nervous system. Putting just legs up the wall is really great for our lymphatic system as well. There's so many different things we can do. For me, also time in nature is really, really healing and beneficial for me. I spend a lot of time near creeks and water. It just helps remind me to go with the flow. And I just like to watch, the elements. Or maybe if you're near a big forest, and you don't necessarily, even if you're living in the middle of a city, we don't have to have connection to nature and its wildness to find connection to spirit. You can go into meditation, just close down your eyes and ask to be receptive. And you have to have a lot of resilience and a lot of restraint when we show up to those places, because sometimes in our consciousness we may have anger, we may have jealousy, we may have fear because of our exposure to what's happening in the world around us and the current events. So we have to have that restraint to kind of use that energy. And that takes a lot of boldness and bravery to do that, free of the gossiping or putting it on anyone else, to just kind of get clearer. And I think the clearer we get physiologically, the clearer we can get psychologically, spiritually as well. So I just try to incorporate all those levels, my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels, to become a better, more receptive channel for divine grace.
Shannon, so sorry, Mandee. Shannon, have you ever practiced Tai Chi, or have you ever taken any Tai Chi classes in your body movement experience?
Ooh, good question.
Yes, I've worked in my goal to kind of merge spirituality and science. I have worked in hospitals, in integrative health centers. I worked for a pilot program out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado at Yampa Valley Medical Center. And we had services to patients there where there was Tai Chi, yoga, free counseling sessions. We even had Reiki there, where I would, as the Reiki practitioner, go. Mostly I worked with women in labor. I would go in and just offer Reiki, or even before surgery, we would gather family members, the patient, the surgeons, the doctors, the nurses, and staff together to hold a prayer or whatever, was in alliance with the patient and the patient's family's beliefs. So those kinds of things I found incredibly beneficial. I have practiced, and I think it's something I will practice while I'm in this body and as I continue to age, because it's just such a fluid motion on the joints. But what's so exciting is there's so many things to learn in this life. So I just want to encourage people to not stop learning. We can learn a new language, we can take an art class, we can learn a new instrument. I think I am now 40 years in this body, and I observe in my peers around me kind of a surrender or a defeat of not wanting to learn or being excited about life anymore, just getting a little caught into the drama of what's happening in the world around us, the economics, the politics, etc. And I just want to encourage people to find the joy in life. And I'm encouraging myself to do that as well. So yeah, that is something I would like to learn more, Tai Chi.
Looks so cool. When it would probably be really relaxing to do it and awesome to do it, but just watching people do it, I get all mesmerized and I'm like, ooh, that looks magical, like universal movements or something. I don't know. It looks really cool. I'm going to get into it too here shortly, as soon as I find a class and things start opening up more.
Yeah, I haven't experienced it yet either, but I've heard such good things about it, and Qigong. So I think I want to invite both those in. Maybe you and I'll make a TikTok Qigong video for the people. Who knows? Shannon, I had another question for you. When you were talking about the anger and jealousy and fear, I was wondering if you in your book have touched on it or think about it, the scientific effects of that and like the study of the vibrations around that and what that looks like.
Yeah, I do talk about it. For me, my goal is to try to live life in devotion. And for me, that means kind of no complaining. I mean, I have used you all for your support and services. It is true, you guys are the healer's healer. So I just want to thank you for your services to me to help me stay strong in contributing in my community. But yes, I think those kind of energies affect our physiological body, affect the functioning of our cells. There's a lot of research out there and healers out there that talk about how our emotions and our feelings can affect the resonance of our body. And what I've learned in yoga is that the spine and the spinal cord is like a satellite, an antenna, and it's constantly being fed by all these external sources of inspiration. And it's up to us to bring mindfulness into how we metabolize those things. So, and it's hard to discern and hard to clear and do that work. But it is very important. And one of the things I do with my clients is if there's a negative energy or maybe something that's been kind of ingrained in your emotional body of perhaps I'm not good enough, all these things, it's helpful to work with mantra. And mantra is purposeful thought coordinated perhaps with the breath or just purposeful thought and positive affirmation. So what I do is I try to coach people into identifying the feeling that has been kind of keeping them stuck or hurting them, and then shifting it to the positive opposite feeling and asking spirit, God, to trace back that negative feeling of, let's say, insecurity through all DNA, through all lives, past, present, future, coexisting really, and ask for support in shifting it so we can arrive to the present moment feeling confident and choosing to feel that confidence. So that's one way I try to work with people on eradicating feelings of anger, jealousy, fear, and all those things. But we're everything. So we are going to be exposed to all those different feelings. But kind of as I mentioned before, is having the resiliency and the discipline to digest it and move it out of your system, out of your nervous system, and claiming the more positive feeling, the more positive emotion, so you can resonate more towards that. I mean, it is a responsibility. It's a responsibility to become, responsible to the energy that we are running, not just for ourselves and our own happiness, but for uplifting the collective energy that we're all experiencing in our world right now, because we're not separate. I think, I find a lot of peace in the law of unity. That's bringing me to peace right now, and this challenging external, experience of what's happening.
Can you expand on that? What's the law of unity, like your perspective of that, and what's it bringing in for you?
Sure. We're all one. I believe there's multiple perspectives, multiple truths, multiple experiences based on each and every one of us, based on our gender, our race, our culture, what part of the world we're living in, our social economic status, our social experiences. And that kind of creates our perspective and how we perceive the world around us, how we perceive our experiences in our relationships. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Yet I think we're all part and parcel of a collective. And I think when we can start to respect and have empathy and compassion for all the different viewpoints and all the different perspectives, we come closer and closer to unity, to oneness. And it is a law of nature that it is oneness. So for me, I find a lot of peace in that. And there's really no need to rush anyone else's process. We just have to work on ourselves. So for me as a healer, I don't try to force my opinions or my perspective on anyone else. I think the greatest and kindest thing I can do is be willing to understand and see how someone else is experiencing the world around them. And then if there's maybe a block or a drama or trauma, try to help them shift that perspective. I believe shifts in perspective are magic. That magic is a shift in perspective. So we change just like nature all the time. So just being open to change, releasing our resistance to change. I mean, nature doesn't fight change. Why do we as humans fight it? We can't stop aging. We can't stop these things. So the more we can surrender to it or get more comfortable with major changes like death, I think the more we can arrive to the present moment and feel free and find joy and love for one another.
I love that. I've been talking about death a lot with clients. It's kind of interesting. I've had a rise of death doulas, if you will, and people who are light workers and wayshowers who are meant to shine light on, our quote unquote death process. And the shaman really is the one who teaches us that death is really just the other side of the beginning, and looking at ourselves in these more infinite energetic ways as opposed to this, concrete thing, and expanding our belief systems. And a lot of people are really rising up to start doing that job. And I always just compare a little bit to like babies come into the world like, yay, we're so excited, we throw parties, we have pictures, we do all the things, and it's this lovely celebration. But death is so different, and in many cultures it is celebrated, but in many cultures it's not discussed. It's a shadow. It's something we're afraid to go into because it does create hurt, and it does open and expand our hearts. And so I'm seeing a lot of wayshowers stepping up to the plate to help bridge that gap and to start creating some discussion around it, some new tradition around it, and bring beauty to that process. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
I think
Go ahead, Shannon.
Death is in each sunset, in every beginning, in every relationship end, with every move, with every exhale breath. I mean, death is all around us. So why avoid this truth? I think when we embrace death and we honor the wisdom of it, we can start to show up and really live our lives in this present moment. I mean, according to the lineage of yoga, it's like there's not death, not even of the physical body, as it's not an end. It's actually an opportunity for freedom from the clutches of what yoga calls Maya, or the illusion. So for what I've learned in the teachings from the lineage and practice is the goal is to be conscious during our death, to have it be another spiritual experience. And it's important what we're thinking. It's important how we're feeling at that moment when we take that last breath. I mean, if you think about it, the first thing we do when we come from our mama's womb is we take an inhale. And the last thing all of us will do when our soul leaves the physical body, it will be an exhale. So for me to coach people, I think let's just be more mindful and grateful for our breath, and to remember that time is our most precious gift here. So let's make a positive use of our time and be more mindful in all our interactions so that we can leave a legacy here, not necessarily a building or an empire, but a memory or a feeling. And, you know, do the radical work that we all chose to incarnate at this time to do. And just remember that death is coming. So how are we living our lives today?
And those are important words and things to ponder and open up your mind with, for sure. About a year ago, I was doing a reading for my now good friend Quinn, and I said to her, have you ever thought of being a death doula? And I'd never even heard the term before. It just came out of me kind of like intuitively. And she goes, I do view things a lot differently than the average person. I'm not so sad about death, and I view it in a different way. And I'm like, well, your spirit guides are saying you'd be good at it. Well, just a few weeks ago, she messaged me and she goes, hey, remember that whole death doula thing I'm interested in? I'm like, yeah. She goes, there's a school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where it's half remote and then some of it's clinical and in person. So if anyone's interested in being a death doula, I know there's other programs and organizations out there, but there's definitely one in Ann Arbor, Michigan, that you can do most of it remote and then come in and probably finish up some clinicals and get your degree or certificate or whatever they're calling it. But what we have is the largest generation that ever existed next to the millennials. I think they kind of compare in numbers. We have the baby boomers coming to the end of their existence on this planet. And there's a large amount of them. So I think it's just perfect timing how the light workers are stepping forward and wanting to do that death doula work and help people break down that fear and uncertainty, make it a more lighter, alchemic experience of shifting dimensions, leaving the body behind, the heavy physical body behind, and going home, I like to call it. So I've even played around with being a death doula. I'm here in the Southwest area, and Arizona is a huge retirement state, I guess we'll call it. So it's Florida, but definitely Arizona. And I thought, it'd be cool to be able to support some families while they're having a loved one pass. It looked like a little bit more like hospice, where it could probably hold space for the people that have lost a loved one, and then also hold space for the loved one while they're leaving their body, and make it a ceremonial or not ceremonial, I guess, whatever lines up with the client's intention and what have you, or beliefs. It's a great opportunity for people to get into a new career, no doubt.
And some people, Jennie, also death doulas, if you're listening, if you're out there, follow us on the Alchemy Sisters, follow us on Heart Over Ego Radio. You are not alone, and we are starting to really see a lot of them. And one thing we like to do with Alchemy Sisters is create community. So keep in touch with us and follow us. I was going to say something else with that too, but I forgot. So onward and upward.
Shannon, I have a question for you really quickly. Did you ever consider, or have you ever considered being an Ayurvedic practitioner?
Yeah, I've studied a lot of Ayurveda, and I do work with it with clients. I will share a quiz, and you can find these online where you can just answer questionnaires about, the behavior patterns of your body, and just to figure out what dosha you have. And a dosha, there's 3 of them: Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And the prominent dosha is to share with you which dosha is most likely to come out of alignment. And then based on the Ayurveda science, we can use different herbs or foods or yogic practices to bring the body back into balance. I actually write about this in my book. When I lived at the Tree of Life, Dr. Gabriel Cousins is a Ayurvedic doctor. And then studying with my yoga teachers, David Life, Sharon Gannon, who are the founders of Jiva Mukti Yoga, they also taught a lot of Ayurveda principles to me. So yes, I do work with Ayurveda with my clients. It's the science of life, and it's one of the oldest recorded healing systems that we have. It's like a medical healing system.
You know, when I lived in Boulder about, I guess, probably 6 or 7 years ago now, about 5 years ago, actually, I left in 2015. So before I left, I had run across so many cool healers, Shannon and Mandee both being one of them, or I guess two of them, we should say. But either way, I ran across an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she did incredible work. And she would like use her fingers and touch my wrist and check something. It felt like energy work when she was doing it, but which I don't know exactly what she was doing.
Pulses. You can read from the pulse what dosha you're currently predominant in.
It's fascinating. I never totally figured it out because it was kind of in depth, and I was just so pleased and amazed by the session that I didn't ask a ton of questions when it was happening because it felt so cool. But that was her main thing, was to get my nervous system in check. So when you were talking, Shannon, about yoga and your practice and your studies and how it really works with the nervous system, I'm like, I bet she ran across a lot of Ayurvedic understandings in her studies.
You know, I would probably even consider myself a practitioner because, you know, the work of Ayurveda does focus on the principles of the 5 elements. And it does honor even the seasons, the time of day, and, you know, recommends reconnection of the person to nature and states that that is a vital part of our health. So, you know, I'm not licensed as an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I definitely use a lot of the lineage in my work and in my self-healing.
I love that healing. It's well-rounded. You can tell the wisdom in it, the ancient wisdom in that practice, as well as yoga, of course, too. And they're both paired beautifully together, of course. So wonderful. Shannon, why don't you tell all of our listeners how they can get a hold of you in case they want to get that book or want to contact you about questions, or maybe they're in the Boulder area and they want to come to your yoga classes.
Thanks. My website is shannonconnellhealth.com, and my name is spelled SHANNONCONNELL, and then health, HEALTH.com. You can go to the contact link, and that'll put us in direct communication via email. On my website, I have blogs, I have videos of yoga classes. I share my yoga teaching schedule. I actually start this afternoon. Will be my first class post-COVID shutdown. What I've observed, unfortunately, is several of the studios that I was publicly teaching yoga in have not survived the COVID shutdown. Many of them going bankrupt or closing for other reasons. So I think as a yoga practitioner, we're going to have to evolve and find other ways to share the practice and the teachings with one another. Currently, I am using Zoom and doing live classes, and I love the idea, and it's been with me for these past few months of incorporating more adventure yoga retreats where we get outside and practice yoga, maybe out a hike, things like that. So yeah, I'll have all that information on my website. I am on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is at Shannon Connell Health. Facebook would be Shannon Connell, and then my email is shannonconnellhealth@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Anything that you want to ask, Mandee? I'll hand it back over to you.
I'm just been daydreaming about maybe we should plan a tropical event for a retreat and bring Shannon along because their image had her. Were you in Hawaii in that picture that you sent us?
Yeah, because of my career choice, it has been over a decade since I had the opportunity to be at the ocean. And over the Thanksgiving holiday, my family gifted me a ticket and a room to share with my family on Maui. And I got to spend 9 days in Maui, and it was really, really beautiful to see the ocean and to see banana trees and pineapple trees and to have fresh fruit. And, maybe us ladies stay in touch because I did have a couple of days on my own, and my family supported me in renting a car. So I was able to kind of drive around and talk to locals and learn of some retreat center areas for rent or even campsites and things. But yeah, that is a goal of mine to host something, at least one annually, to get that experience near the ocean again. I mean, I think there's biomacrome and energy in each environment, and I think it's important for our immune systems and our health to get out in nature, get out into the forest, get near bodies of water, just to breathe that in. I think that is good for our lymphatic system, our cells, to just have different exposures to different natural environments to give us more variety and bring in different energy. It's good for our physiological health.
I gotta say, when I moved to Colorado, I'd always been...
Not sure if you saw...
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, when I moved to Colorado, I dried up. I'd always been an East Coaster. I'd lived in these lush green rolling mountains or at the beach, and I was always around tons of water. And when I moved out to Colorado, my inner climate changed a lot. I got bad bronchitis. I developed allergies. I felt an electromagnetic pull to the ocean. And now I've lived back at sea level for a few years now, and I feel so much more myself again. I've continued to heal more. I've emerged a whole new side business, Sea Goddess Healing Arts, if you want to follow that on Facebook, listeners. And I have to agree, there's something so therapeutic and cleansing about the salt water and being at the ocean and at sea level.
I think it's really interesting how each of us can thrive in different environments, and how we, will find what environment is going to better support ourselves. For me, I do feel a pull to live near the water at some point. I feel like right now I'm in the prime of sharing my life work, and Spirit has kind of kept me in this Boulder, Denver, Colorado area. There's a lot of practitioners here. However, each one of us has our own unique expression of our work, and I'm just being guided to kind of stay grounded here for now. But I hope I am blessed and rewarded to live near the ocean as well someday.
I'm sure you will be. Jennie, you experience a totally different climate than I do, but we're old. Like, I don't know. I lived in Lemuria and a lot of other tropically places. But Jennie, you are on fire when you're in the desert, right?
Yeah, and I think it has something to do with my doshas, since we're talking about that. I think it has something to do with that and what I experience. The humidity makes me miserable. I become almost like half the person. Like, I'm not outgoing, I'm not pleasant, I'm not fun-loving, and I'm like, I just don't do well. Now, I'm being a little dramatic because I'm okay, I can make it, but overall, I can tell a big difference of being in humidity compared to being in the dryness. I'm more inspired in the Colorado, New Mexico area. I did live in Northern California for a year before I got to New Mexico, where I'm at right now. It didn't do it for me. It was too wet. It was too lush. I like the looks of it. It looks cool. I lived in Georgia, one of the most green, beautiful states you can find, right there by Tennessee. Gorgeous in Tennessee too. Beautiful to look at. Just don't do well with my energy level in that humidity. But Shannon, I don't know if you get a chance to watch or look at Facebook very often, but Mandee and I have an event going in Northern Georgia. We're having cacao ceremony. We're having yoga. We're having workshops, organite workshops, as well as psychic workshops, as well as spiritual hygiene type workshops. We're going to be layering them in. And after the show here, I'll send you the information so you can get an idea of what we're doing. We're going to be in the East for our first 4 or 5 because we got a lot of support there and we got a lot of connections, but we will be out West. So as soon as we land out West, you will be contacted to head the yoga part. And then Leah can focus on the ceremonial part. She does usually both, but I'm imagining she'd like to focus in on that ceremony if we do something big. So just know we're on our way out West. Might not be till the end of 2021 or maybe even 2022, but one of my good friends and business partners who works with us at Heart Over Ego Radio, she is into festivals and has a liquor license for the whole state of California, and she's going to come check us out in Georgia. And if she likes what we're doing, which I already know she does because she already said it, but she's going to see how we move and groove together, and she wants to add her dimension to it, which is traveling bar and liquor license for a larger festival. What was that one in Colorado? It's probably only had 5 or 6 years. Is it called Arise? I kind of see something like that, but a little different, and of course have some similar essences. But we have a friend on the East Coast who manages music, Jennie. So we're building up. So don't be surprised if we ask you to join the circus.
Wonderful. Count me in.
Cool. I figured we could count on you to definitely bring your passion to the table and expose it to a large group of people. A lot of us, including Mandee, and Shannon does more groups than I think Mandee and I do. I guess if you consider podcast a group, then I guess we're probably all very similar. But a lot of times it's one-on-one or sessions one-on-one. It's nice to be able to get in front of larger groups and get our message across. So you will be contacted for that. And ladies, should we wrap up our show? Is there anything else on your heart and mind you want to share?
I just want to inspire all of you listening to continue to just live your life on purpose, with purpose, and be brave to stay in constant intention with your intentions and how you're interacting with one another, the current events, and the world around you. And I just want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you all for hosting me as a guest on your show. I want to thank you for your work. As I mentioned earlier, you two have been the healer's healer in my life. And I just really, really appreciate all the support that I've received from your work. So really beautiful to collaborate with you all today.
Thank you for showing up and sharing your time and knowledge and heart space with all of us and doing your work in this world, sister. Like you and every single one of the light workers listening, we appreciate you and we're grateful for you. And if there's any way we can support you, we always will, because the world needs you right now and that light deserves to shine. So thank you so much for being brave enough to shine it, Shannon. And thank you so much to all of our listeners for tuning in. And thank you, Jennie, for always holding down this space with me.
Yep. And I just wanted to add in, we are the Alchemy Sisters. We're on Mondays, and we are part of a larger podcast network called Heart Over Ego Radio. We are getting new shows by the week. So check us out. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find us on Blog Talk Radio and any major podcast app. Just simply search Heart Over Ego Radio. And if you like our stuff about spirituality, you're going to love our stuff about politics. So search for our sister station, Third Eye Political Radio. We're so glad to have had this time with you. And until next time, have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.